Red Bull is aiming at Mercedes after a surprising turn of events at the Monaco Grand Prix. There's a lot to unpack, from unexpected race strategies to fiery comments from team leaders. The competition is heating up and the tension is at an all-time high. So let's dive into this video today to find out all the details about this intense rivalry and what it means for the rest of the season. Christian Horner had plenty to say about the recent Monaco Grand Prix. He seems to have taken a specific dig at Mercedes, a team that used to challenge Red Bull regularly. Horner commented on Mercedes' performance, noting Mercedes could have done much better than they did. He suggested that Mercedes' strategies were lacking, hinting at a missed opportunity for the Silver Arrows. This might come across as a cheap shot toward his former rivals, especially considering Red Bull's struggles in the 2024 season compared to their dominance in 2022 and 2023. Red Bull's struggles in 2024. It's safe to say that Red Bull was one of the biggest losers of the 2024 Monaco GP. Not only did Max Verstappen aboard his lap in Q3, but Sergio Perez also faced a disqualification in Q1. The situation worsened when Perez crashed with Kevin Magnussen, causing damage estimated between $2 to $3 million. This financial hit could ruin Red Bull's budget for the 2024 season, especially in terms of bringing necessary upgrades to fix their car's fundamental flaws. Despite Red Bull's issues, Horner also pointed out Mercedes' behavior during the race. He believes this was a significant problem. However, it seems that Red Bull needs to focus on its own challenges rather than critiquing its rivals. As we mentioned earlier, Verstappen found himself in an unusual situation, having to drive between both Mercedes drivers. The red flag allowed for a mandatory pit stop, leaving Verstappen with little opportunity for a surprise move. Even after mounting new tires and getting close to Russell, the tight space on the track meant Verstappen had no choice but to drive monotonously for 78 laps. Horner believes that Mercedes could have played their cards better. This could have been different if Mercedes had not gone for a defeatist race for themselves, Horner commented. The Monaco GP outcome saw Ferrari closing the gap in the Constructors' Championship, now just 24 points behind Red Bull. Leclerc is only 31 points behind Verstappen in the drivers' standings. Horner remarked, "I think we face stronger competition here, but perhaps not with Mercedes. Ferrari and McLaren now certainly look competitive." Despite the issues faced during the Monaco GP, Horner remains focused on the future and the competition ahead. He acknowledges that the landscape of Formula One is changing, with new teams emerging as strong contenders. They cannot be discounted. It's a long championship, and obviously they have taken a reasonable chunk of points today, Horner remarked. He added, "I did not really understand Mercedes' race today. It was a hugely conservative race by George. To give up so much time and then go so fast at the end of the race did not really make a lot of sense. But I don't think it would have changed anyway. They weren't going to overtake anybody. It was just a defeatist race to defend fifth." Mercedes' strategy. The narrative has shifted significantly, with a P5 finish in Monaco being a considerable win for Mercedes, especially when complemented by Hamilton's P7 finish. Despite their conservative strategy, Mercedes finished ahead of Perez, promoting some happiness within the Silver Arrows. However, this also aggravates Red Bull, who are now in more competitive waters after dominating the 2022 and 2023 seasons. Mercedes is now the fourth fastest team on the grid. Their ability to finish ahead of Perez with both cars indicates a shift in the competitive landscape. While Red Bull remains strong, the resurgence of teams like Ferrari, McLaren, and now Mercedes poses new challenges. Red Bull knew challenging times were ahead, but they didn't expect it to come so swiftly, especially from Ferrari and McLaren. Verstappen, who could have qualified for P2 or P3, found himself in an unexpected situation after hitting the wall at the exit of Turn 1 during his final fast lap attempt. This incident left him stuck between both Mercedes drivers in Monaco. Their strategy is rooted in Horner's allegation of a defeatist race for Mercedes. Even Russell was unhappy with the pace he had to maintain on medium tires. Russell, along with Verstappen and Hamilton, drove 78 laps on medium tires, showing that he was far from the optimal driving time, losing 3 to 4 seconds per lap. This suboptimal pace was due to not going full throttle on the straights and driving in a higher gear. Reflecting on the race, Russell expressed his confusion and frustration. "It was a long old race, a strange one as well. For the first 30 laps, we were toiling around. When Max pitted, I put my foot down, and only afterward did I realize how much we had closed the gap on the Ferraris and McLarens. I was really pleased about that. Max put me under a bit of pressure, but it was pretty under control. Russell acknowledged that the only hope for a good race was a bit of strategic maneuvering, which was thwarted by the red flag. The only hope of a good race here was a bit of spiciness with strategy, but with the red flag, it was out of the window and we got the maximum we could, he said. Christian Horner's frustration is understandable, given Red Bull's severe points loss at the Monaco GP. The track's unique nature raises questions about whether it's worth racing under such conditions. Notably, both Verstappen and Hamilton agreed that this track is not suitable for modern F1 cars. They believe a change is long overdue, whether through mandatory pit stops or other adjustments, as the top 10 drivers finished in the same order they started. Lewis Hamilton voiced his concerns, saying, "I can only imagine that the race was boring for the fans. Ultimately, our tires can do a whole race. We have got to find ways to spice it up, maybe a mandatory 3-stop or something to make it more exciting." He added, "The race was non-eventful. Everyone drove so slowly. It didn't matter what tire you were on. We were driving seconds off the pace. I don't know what it was like watching, but I'm sure people were falling asleep." Hamilton's remarks highlight a common sentiment among drivers about the lackluster nature of the race. The fact that everyone switched to the other tire after the crash and managed slowly further emphasizes the need for change. "Definitely one of the dullest races I think I've been in, but that is Monaco for you," Hamilton concluded. This opinion is shared by many on the grid. Even Christian Horner, who has a special place in his heart for Monaco, admits that something needs to change. He acknowledged, "The nature of the track is definitely something that needs to undergo discussions as to whether or not it's worth racing under these circumstances." The F1 calendar is rapidly growing, with significant interest from venues like Chicago and New York. This expansion could jeopardize Monaco's place on the calendar, especially given its lack of competitive racing. Despite the glamour and extravagance, these factors mean little if the drivers are dissatisfied with the racing experience. Christian Horner's frustration with the recent performance of the RB20 adds another layer to this debate. Horner's frustration is not only due to Monaco's lack of competitiveness, but also stems from the RB20's recent performance. Although Verstappen won at Imola while also participating in the 24-hour sim race at the Nürburgring, he finished P2 in Miami and missed the podium entirely in Monaco. This was the first time in 2024 he finished a race without securing a podium spot. RB20's fundamental flaw. Verstappen has labeled the RB20 as having a fundamental flaw, which is becoming increasingly evident. This flaw has impacted Red Bull's performance over the last 3 races. Instead of focusing on Mercedes' strategies and performances, Horner and Helmut Marko might be better served by addressing the issues within their own teams. The drivers' dissatisfaction with Monaco is clear. Despite its historic significance and the spectacle it offers, the lack of overtaking opportunities and the monotonous nature of the race detract from its appeal. Hamilton stated, "We have got to find ways to spice it up, maybe a mandatory 3-stop or something to make it more exciting." Christian Horner acknowledged the ongoing issues when discussing the RB20's development and preseason expectations. He remarked, "I think the issues of the RB20 are a continual process. Of course, you're into the law of diminishing returns, and your focus changes depending on what your problems are." Horner highlighted specific problems such as ride issues and the car's performance on curbs. He noted, "Why did we have these ride issues? Why is the car struggling on the curbs?" Interestingly, he pointed out that the RB20's suspension is carried over from last year's car, which did not have the same issues. This raises questions about what has changed and what needs to be fixed. Another significant concern for Red Bull is the financial impact of Sergio Perez's crash, which caused $2 to $3 million in damage. Horner mentioned, "It seems like a large chunk of what was planned to go into upgrades will be directed towards fixing Perez's car. This diversion of funds is particularly troubling when the team is trying to maximize the car's performance. In a period where you're trying to extract the best out of the car, this is the last news you'd like to hear." He added, "So what do you think? Will Red Bull face a significant challenge in 2024? Comment below and subscribe for more."